Power Athlete Radio. Everyone needs a Jeff Gonzales in their life. A proficient firearms instructor with his venture, Trident Concepts, Jeff draws from his military experience and years of pursuing perfection on the range. This week, John and Tex discuss the details of executing the optimal shot, from fitness to body position to sights and trigger press. And later in the show, the guys transition to a more topical discussion about politics. It's the kind of highbrow shit you've come to expect from the premier podcast in strength and conditioning. This is episode 218.
Power Athlete Nation, what is up? We got Tex and John here.
Sitting in Austin, Texas.
In Luke's kitchen. / recording studio.
This might be one of the final episodes done in Casa de Summers.
Because the barn is under construction.
Yeah, the barn's under construction. We framed it out, did studs yesterday. We got to polish the floors tomorrow. And then the guy comes in for spray foam, put up the metal siding. And then we got our veteran of professional bull riding coming to put our cedar ceiling in shortly thereafter. So he's supposed to deliver the wood because I want him to sit in the barn and climatize before we put the ceiling up. But yeah, we should have the office rolling and maybe a ceiling fan, and maybe we can have to do AC maybe next year, but we'll see how awful it is this year and then go from there.
We can survive. It's Luke we're worried about.
Yeah. Luke's he's very temperature sensitive.
He's a sweater.
Yeah, no, he's a sweaty dude. I ever tell you the time that our neighbors who were drying an order of hundreds of t-shirts, and this was at Power Athlete, our next door neighbors were drying all these t-shirts, and it was a pretty hot day that day, and we're in there, and Luke's just like sheets of water coming off his face, and he's like, "Let's go to Starbucks," and we shut the office down and went to Starbucks that day. It's good.
It's a good day. So we have a special guest on the premier podcast in strength and conditioning.
Conditioning.
And a Austin native. So Jeff Gonzales, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I know you were a previous guest of our show, but we've picked up probably about, 25,000 listeners since you last came on. We're kind of a big deal.
Well, kind of.
So
kind of.
If you would do them the pleasure of introducing yourself, tell us your goals, your missions, what you do, and
hopes and dreams, childhood fantasies. I mean, we're really open to anything.
Online dating profile.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. We're getting into the weeds there. All right. Well, hey, listen, thanks again for having me on the show. I'm super excited. You guys are obviously doing well, much to my surprise.
much to my chagrin, you guys are doing well. I was going to ask you, is there a special, kind of like, industry dating site that, they connect, the industry guys with the gun bunnies?
No,
No,
there's not. It's called, well, yes, it's called Facebook.
Oh.
Well, Instagram is the new Tinder.
Instagram is the new, I see, this is the thing. I'm out of the loop. So I've been out of the loop for like about 18 months now. I don't know any of this.
You turned off your DMs?
I have none. I don't have any of those accounts anymore.
Oh, you got rid of all your Instagram and all that?
Oh, no, I still have Instagram, but I use Instagram for what it was designed for, which was promote dating.
Checking out scantily clad women with big butts. Which is
no,
pretty much what it's
both.
No, I'm afraid I don't do that. I'm a very technical individual. So,
well, I mean, don't you just troll the social media looking for people that don't have trigger?
First of all, like, where do
etiquette?
you find fucking time to do shit like that?
No, we don't.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have.
We make time.
Oh, is it? Well, I guess it's fun.
Well, Jeff's pet peeve is trigger discipline.
Oh,
so
fuck
he
yeah.
travels the internet just searching for people that don't have trigger discipline.
I will say that you're correct on that fires me up like a big dog, but I don't have the time. Like, people are always, I don't know where people find time to do the shit that they do already. So yeah, I don't have that time.
Well, if you don't have any time, what time do you have? Like what type of things do you have time for?
I have time for things that matter to me.
Like long walks, puppies,
sunsets. Don't forget the sunsets.
Vegan tacos.
Vegan tacos are a thing, damn it. I fucking told you they would be a thing.
It's like that organic gluten-free kombucha that I saw Tex drinking today.
Oh,
your house is stocked full of it.
Did you steal that from our house?
No, I went to HEB because you chugged one after we were hanging out in the barn for 6 hours. I'm like, man, I could use one of those.
Dude, you don't have to ask. You can have whatever you want. Just go have one. I don't offer because you're not a guest.
I know. I still feel bad.
What? No, don't. Like this is funny. Like, these guys come over so much that I don't think of them as guests anymore. So I don't really offer them anything. I'm like, if you want a beer, you want a drink, you want anything, go take it. Like, just walk in there and do it. Like, it's like I come over to Luke's house, I go get a water. It's not like, hey, Luke, can I get a water? And I stand there waiting for him to get me one. Just make it happen, dude. Like, we're past the point of guest.
Okay.
I mean, how long have we known each other? 2009, right?
2009.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
I've known you for 8 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
just
Like
want-
at
So
this.
are
at
you
this
guys
point-
gonna start swapping spit now? Is this the time where you guys do that? I don't know.
It's
Should I
not-
leave the room?
It's not like we're seamen. There's only one person at this table that's really a seaman and a Navy squeal. So
Interesting fact. All right. So yeah.
So I guess that best describes Jeff. We don't have to go into his
I guess not.
No. Well, I mean,
apparently not.
Yeah, we mentioned online dating, squeals, and semen. I mean, we're pretty good.
And
So
thank you. That
Thank
is the
you,
show.
ladies and
Thanks,
germs.
Jeff.
Whoa, is this thing on? But without much to my chagrin, so we have Jeff sitting here, and I actually met Jeff through another guest of ours, Tony Blower.
That's right.
One of my most interesting and favorite people in the world, because like I'm always really amazed with Tony, like how he I can never guess how he's going to react to anything. Like, I'll constantly read stuff. But so I remember rapping with Tony years ago, actually at the CrossFit Games, which just happened shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about a little bit of shooting, and he said, hey, you should connect with my friend, Jeff Gonzales. So Jeff and I connected. And then we ended up, I think the first time we met was showing up at the range to go do a shooting deal.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, I remember you rolling up in your truck, getting out. I was like, fuck.
I'm going to have to shoot this dude
I'm
more
going
than
to
once. So, yeah, we were at Rahagis, and we rolled in. And I had shot for years, but had never had any coaching other than when we were in Kansas City. We used to go shoot with some cops who, no offense to our law enforcement community, just aren't the most proficient shooters. So I think I developed some habits, and I wanted to up my game in shooting. So I got a chance to work with Jeff and Trident Concepts, and at that point, I think our friendship, it was pretty funny. Within like minutes, we're like, how come we haven't been friends longer?
I know, that's exactly what I was thinking. The same thing. The funny thing about it is that I think one of the reasons why we get along so well is that we're both very purpose-driven, very passionate about what we do, and our industries are very similar. We bitch and complain about kind of the same things.
Well, and we do talk trash to each other.
That's true.
And what's funny is most people, when you talk trash to them like this, they get butthurt. And ironically, I've never seen Jeff ever get butthurt, and I can't think of a single time I've ever been butthurt.
No.
So there's a lot of shit talking, but that's kind of standard. That's like an SOP.
It is very much so. But it's been a while. I can't remember how long ago that was, but that was a while back. And I was super excited when you finally pulled your head out of your ass and moved to Texas, and especially down the street from me. So that makes it really nice. I'm super excited about the new barn and how that's going to look. I think you guys are going to kill it. I really am excited about that.
Yeah, we're building quite possibly the nicest private gym for ourselves and our friends.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Well, like, it was funny. The guys poured concrete yesterday, and I was talking with the guys, and they were like, hey, is this going to be a commercial gym? And I'm like, no. and the guy was like, so you built this building just for you and your friends to lift weights? I'm like, yes. Like, the dude couldn't comprehend it, and he's like, wow, that's really, but no people. I'm like, nah, we don't really like. I mean, the people in our circle, but having a commercial gym where you actually have clients and members.
I couldn't even fathom that.
It's a lot of hand holding.
It's a lot of and see, that's what I'm talking about. Our industries are so similar because there is so much hand holding in my industry, and there's so much, and we were talking about this. I think, Tex, you weren't here when we were talking about that, about the biggest problem that we have is convincing people of their ignorance of how they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And in the fitness world, just like in the tactical shooting world,
I think actually it's worse in the tactical world, because there's this idea, like, in fitness and training, whatever, there's really no, it's not as if an assault bike is going to make me more fit than a C2 rower, or that, a Sornex barbell, even though it is way nicer quality than something else, like a barbell is a barbell. You can go to a gym, you can do whatever. What's so strange in the tactical world is there's this kind of illusion that it's like golf almost.
Yeah.
That there's always something new around the corner that's going to somehow fix the deficit of what
technology or adjustment.
That
so true.
Instead of looking at it I remember years ago, I hate golf. I hate it, but the NFL, they gave us a clubs, So I have this really nice bag, so like clubs. It's all monogrammed and shit. And so I figured if I ended up with this bag of clubs, I needed to go golf. So I went to go golf. I had this, big deal, and I went out. And I remember we went to go play golf with some people. This dude showed up with like a putter, a driver, a 9-iron, and a sand wedge or something. And he had like 4 clubs, and he was walking. And the dude was like a scratch golfer. And I remember thinking, like, this dude showed up and basically shot like par on the golf course with 4 clubs. And I probably didn't even crack 100 with all like my fancy clubs. And I remember thinking like don't fear the man with like lots of clubs or lots of guns or lots of kicks. Fear the dude that practice it once over. I mean, it's kind of like, I'm sure you've seen it, man. Like when I went through your class, those dudes were like busting out like Pelican cases of all these pistols and this and this. And I'm like, I just want the dude over there that's got like a, fucking Western revolver, like a single shoot, like single action revolver that's like fucking plinking people.
And this is the thing. It's like, you're right. You're absolutely right. I get so many questions about like, what's the best this, what's the best that. I'm sure you do too.
It's salient arms, right? Isn't it just salient? Isn't the response for everything just salient arms?
So is that the equivalent to supplements? What supplement do you take?
Almost. Yeah, pretty much. Absolutely. It's like, yeah, what supplement, like, or what creatine do you take? What protein do you scarf down? It's very similar to that because, I feel like, and this is why I love talking to you about like the businesses, and because we can find similar solutions that will fit for both of us. Yeah. Both. And it's like, I put way more stock in somebody that can understand fundamentals. And then just our primary mission is just to always instill in everybody we come into contact with the fundamentals, and then just have them execute them faster than the bad guys. And that's it. Well, there's nothing advanced about anything we do.
I mean, it seems like, especially with shooting, it's think about it. I mean, we had a deal out in high school in Texas earlier this week, and I was giving a talk to a bunch of teachers and coaches, and we were talking about the idea of like an open loop versus closed loop environment. And you figure you go to the range, you have your pistol there. I want to draw. I want to basically put shots on target. They know what's expected of them. So here's a closed loop environment where you can teach proficiency and get them to up their skill and really break everything down. And like the age old, like, I don't want you to move fast until you can show me perfection in slow. So let's do it in slow motion, and then, start speeding up. And I think the reason that we gelled so early was as I went through your course, which was Killer 101, within like minutes, I was like the body position, the technique, the idea, the way he was teaching it, drop and retracted shoulder blades, foot position. And even I contributed some stuff where I was this is why we do it this way. And it was cool to see somebody teach it from that like technical point, instead of, we didn't start at like 200 yards and we're trying to do fucking body shots with 9 mils. Like
bend bullet. That's not the one.
Well, we've tried that.
Yeah.
That's like, 7th level ninja shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what's nice is when you run into people that teach something from like a ground up. Let's teach a technique. Let's not add speed until we develop proficiency. And then once we develop proficiency, you have to add speed to push people outside their comfort zone. And that's what I appreciated when we went through it. You taught it. Once it was taught and mastered, then you wanted to add the element of speed so we could push it and see where shit break apart.
And it's the same way. You don't fucking throw 400 pounds on the bar and try to start back squatting. You've got to start from someplace, and you got to work on form and technique, because once you put that much weight on, you're just crushing. If you don't have the technique, that's just going to crush you. And it's the same thing in the shooting world. Is everybody wants to be high speed, but nobody wants to put the work in. Nobody wants to be in there doing the dry fire, doing the practice, putting, the requisite number of rounds a month down range. They just want to show up, be cool, and look cool more than anything. And then just kind of get their member club ID and move on. And for us, we put so much stock in people that work hard, people that actually, and I love breaking it down, the taking the anatomy and helping people to understand what's important, how it's important, and why they need to be focusing on that. Because I think that's one of the things that we both do really well is we explain the why.
Yeah.
The why is so critical. Once you understand the why, people buy in. It's not that hard of a sell at that point. It's like, oh, right on.
Well, I mean, and the other thing too is I think there's this inherent thing with shooting a pistol that if you point the barrel this way, the bullet will go there. And like, what's so interesting, especially why I really enjoy the shooting, is it's such a instant feedback for whether or not I was able to master what I wanted to do. And you know, like I'm sure people do it with golf, even though I fucking hate golf and look at that. But like same thing, like what I always liked is like I knew the technique, and I would basically, you know, as you pushed out, you pull the trigger, and did it go where you wanted to? And if I'm able to do everything perfect, as I know it should, the bullet should go where I want. If I don't, then I have to figure out, okay, why did that bullet go this way? Why did this? And so Jeff's got some really cool shooting diagnostics that were cool. Like I was burying my finger in too much, which I was pulling the bullet this way. And so like we figured out exactly like where to put it, like on the trigger. And for me, it's like that level of like of detail is what I geek out on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where you put your finger on the trigger determines where the bullet goes.
Yeah.
It can because it's no different than like the barbell when it's going overhead. Like if you don't get that good hip extension, that barbell's probably going to go in front of you, and you're going to miss the lift. If you pull too early and the barbell goes behind you, you're going to miss the lift, right? It's all got to be just right. So in other words, the finger on the trigger has to be positioned exactly on the face of the trigger. And what John was doing was his hands are kind of like meat hooks more than anything. So they were wrapping around the trigger so much that when he was squeezing, he was exerting force on the edge of the trigger that was actually causing the gun to subtly pull. So, you know, we slice hairs when we're out there. We'll because if it's not perfect, it's not perfect. If it's not flawless, it's not flawless. So
you can see this just by.
Well, it's a process. It's like anything. It's a process that you go through to try to identify what the errors are in the shooting technique. Pardon me. And so once we start working that process, it's kind of like anything. You go for the low-lying fruit first. John didn't have any issues with body mechanics, so we didn't have to worry about that. And then the next thing is you worry about the sight systems. You didn't have any problems with the sight systems. And so the next thing we worry about is trigger management. And that's where probably 75% of people's errors are, is all rested in the trigger. So we try to get rid of all the easy stuff. And that was really easy with John. And then just, it was also easy to figure out that his hand size was so big in that pistol, or on that pistol, that it was very likely that what was happening was that he was pulling the trigger slightly to the strong side, which was causing the gun to actually start to move to the strong side before the round was actually fired.
The other thing he did, which was good for me too, is he got me to choke up more. Like I took like a higher, higher up, which is interesting because the meat of my hands started getting cut by the slide.
Yeah.
But I just was like, fuck it, I'll worry about that later. But like that type of stuff where I like normally wouldn't have thought about it. Like, I mean, it's kind of like front squatting. If the bar's not poking you and almost strangling you, it's probably not in the right spot.
Yeah.
So like the same thing, like if the slide doesn't nick me a little bit, I know I'm probably too low on the gun.
Yeah.
And then it was like, what was nice too, was after we went through, this is your grip position, this is everything, this is how I want you to draw, this is what I want. Then for me, if you can show me, I can mimic. And so then when I left there, I went home and basically dry fired every day until I got good and proficient, and then was able to go out and test it more and more. So it was really a lot of fun.
So with referencing golf again, so
Yes,
there's
of course.
a theoretical perfect swing, but we're all different heights, different lengths, all that good stuff. So it's finding your swing. Is that similar to shooting?
I think so. I think you can find that because everybody's body composition is different. So how you interface with the firearm is going to be different. And John is unique in the sense that he's a very large human. So he had to have certain accommodations, and somebody like a petite woman would have to have different accommodations. So yes, there's different components that go into it. And there's not a single, there are some things that transcend principles that will transcend, but then there's all the little details that sometimes have to be customized for that. Like how I would approach it between the two of y'all would be slightly different. John's got a little bit more experience. You're kind of below him in that level. So the way that we would approach it would be a little different.
But I mean, even for like, I remember we did that little test when we did that private deal where we brought Ben and Luke, who had no, I got them, Christmas gifts of Glock 19s. And they went out and, we set them up pistol rigs, the whole deal. And those guys had no experience shooting. Jeff takes them aside, and I shit you not, 20, 30 minutes later, they came back and it was passable, for they knew what they were doing.
But a large part of that was because of their superior knowledge in the physicality aspect. And that's
body awareness. Personal.
Absolutely. I tell them.
But I mean, that's something too that we've talked a lot about. I mean, when people come to your courses, at least when I went to your, the courses, with actual students, the one thing that was interesting was people were more geeked out and interested like with all the gear
Mm-hmm.
than they were with not only, I mean, they were into obviously the proficiency and the learning of the shooting, but the major component that they were completely devoid in was actually physical fitness. And I remember showing up and being like, you realize you guys would be way better served to take that, X amount of dollars you spend on that 1,000 rounds, which I'm never ripping on anybody for spending money on ammo because you're practicing with it. But like that money would probably be better served with either a gym membership or a meal service.
I will tell you straight up that when somebody asks me, Jeff, how can I get better as a shooter? Inside, there's that little voice that wants to say, you need to get stronger. You need to get better in that field. And then I have to come up with something like, well, you should probably work on this. You should probably focus on this. Take a
why
gander.
Not? I mean, why? I mean, what's the problem with necessarily giving people a dose of what they really need instead of acquiescing and kind of being like, well, I think if you work on your trigger management a little more instead of like, seriously,
it's
go lift something heavy.
So there's good and bad. So like people that come to our training programs are for the first time in many cases being held to standards that they're not accustomed to. Like we're the only organization within the shooting industry that has that has been basically we collect metrics on everything. I mean, anything. I don't care what it is. We will collect metrics on it because then we can evaluate that and then speak with authority. An informed decision can be made. So people come there and sometimes there's a little bit of butt hurt that goes on in that sense. So most of the time I want them to have a positive experience so that they will want to come back and keep training. So that's one of the big reasons why I do it. But I make it known to people that I feel it's far better for you to be healthy, strong, athletic if you want to be successful as a shooter.
Well, I remember when I went to your one course, remember I dropped like a 500-pound deadlift.
Oh, Jesus, that's right.
So Jeff and I were training. He comes in, he's staying at the house. We're going to do we went to go do trap bar deadlifts. And so we're doing like a max rep. It was like 495. And the bar slips out of my hand and the back hit. And when the back hit, it jumped. And when it slammed down, the bar landed right on the top of my toe. And actually broke my toe.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, my toe's filling up with blood. I got to go to the hospital. They basically hit it and basically, aspirated the nail, thank God. And I had a fucking fracture in my toe. So I show up to Jeff's thing and like my foot's all fucking taped up. And like we've been talking about this thing for like a fucking year.
I know.
And so I show up and we're doing like it's a concealed deal. We're having to fucking sprint back and forth. And like the hilarious part was I'm fucking dying. And like finally I was like, yo man, I gotta go home, dude. I don't think I can fucking be here. And because I don't want to take any painkillers or nothing because you're shooting guns. So the hilarious part is like 6 months later, I'm online and I forgot what it was. Like I forgot, but it was on Facebook or something. But somebody did a review of one of Jeff's course, and so I clicked on it and read it. And the dude was at my course and made mention to this NFL guy who didn't show up for the second day, and I think he was faking some foot injury. And I was like, these motherfuckers. But no, that's totally fucked up.
I remember that so vividly because you were standing there, and then I remember after the bar the bar bounced funny. That was my first clue. and then the second was like you kind of limped off the platform and sat down, and I'm like, "Are you all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I really messed up my foot." And then you take your shoe off, and you're right. We that class was been building up because I only go to LA like once a year.
Yeah.
And so when you take off your shoe and we look at it, we're like, oh yeah, you probably want to get that looked at, right? And so I was like, I wasn't expecting to see you that day. I really wasn't. I mean, dude, I saw his foot, big toe.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's my right. I have a picture of it. It literally was probably the size of like I don't know a plum.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like the nail was cracked. I mean that thing like the 500 pounds. Wham! I threw the trap bar away that day. That's why we don't have a trap bar.
It hurt him.
Yeah, I'll find another trap bar that doesn't have a piece in the front. Like
intact, man.
Yeah. Like we'll get one, but I ain't ever using it.
Oh my God, dude! Yeah. It and so like when he showed up the next day, when he finally came up and he's like, "Yeah, dude, I got to get going." I'm like, "Dude, you should have never come here."
Well, fuck, I wanted to come.
I know.
It was good, but
well, now you don't have an excuse anymore. Now we're right here.
Yeah,
we're right here. So yeah, but
I did my concealed carry at Jeff's new spot, The Range, which is for you guys who are in Austin or in the surrounding area, you should go check it out. It's pretty much like, for anybody that's been to SHOT Show, it reminds me if like you were to like take like a SHOT Show theme and put it in a range. Like you walk in, like it's super, like clean, nice, like modern, and they have more weapons on the wall than anything I've ever seen. I mean, it reminded me of SHOT Show, like walking up to the HK booth and things. And like the lanes. So I did my license to carry deal there, so we got a chance to shoot, which was also kind of interesting, because I assume that people are showing up for their LTCs are proficient, and to see people almost fail that was kind of hilarious.
And this was one of the things that we talked about early on is I appreciate somebody who recognizes that they don't know what they don't know. I find that to be engaging. Like, that's great. I don't know a lot of shit. I try to find something new, whenever I can. And I think a lot of times people really don't know what they don't know and this is why standards are so important, because if you aren't held to a standard, you really don't know where you stand,
feedback.
Right.
Important for improvement.
I can't understand how people can improve if they don't know what to improve.
During a concealed carry, can you give any feedback? Or is
It's
it just
not designed? It's not designed for that.
It's just an education thing. But your instructor was really good.
Yeah.
In that he even said, hey, now that you guys are anointed to carry a pistol in a concealed manner that you might potentially be called upon to use in a defensive manner, you should feel comfortable and that you've done everything within social responsibility to go out and be proficient with that weapon. Now, I'm paraphrasing. It's not exactly how he said it, but that's how
I like how you said it, though.
That's how I would have pitched the message and been like, you have to have this, social responsibility, that you have this thing tucked in your waistband that potentially, can end somebody's life if used properly. Like, you need a certain level of proficiency, so you don't feel like one that you're out, pushing the realms of like, if something were to happen, could I actually use this? Right? Like, if something happens, I will be able to use this, is the attitude. And like, the interesting part is, I don't know that many of the people that were in the class, if I had said to them, hey man, like, you're going to walk out the store with a gun in your belt and there's a dude right on the other side of the door that's going to shoot you, how are you going to act? Like, how many people would have felt like, I got no problem going into that situation? And like, to me, if you're going to carry, like, that should be your attitude.
Well, I agree. Education is the key, no matter what we're doing, and that's the thing that I try to do is you can't force the horse to drink the water. You can just lead the horse to the water, and we do a really good job at trying to create an environment where people want to come and learn, where they want to educate themselves and they want to improve upon themselves. And that's the thing. I think we attract that type of individual, just like you guys probably attract people that are interested in performance, that want to get stronger, want to get faster. We do the same thing in our field. And I'm like you said, I really geek out on that performance, trying to improve them. It's something I'm very passionate about. And I think what happens is that people go through, first of all, it's a step, it's a process, right? First step, I got to get this license. Then what we hope for is that at some point they decide that, okay, you know what? I really need to advance my skills. I need to feel comfortable. And that's what most of them actually acknowledge. I need to do something else. And then eventually they do. They take it seriously and they come in there and they get either through us or through some other party, they start to improve. So we really emphasize educate yourself, become smarter, become better, Don't, I love that excuse or that meme somewhere that says, be better than your excuses. And that's what we try to encourage people. Don't give me an excuse about, well, blah, 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 blah. That's one of the things that I put out in my classes too, is like the things that we do well is that we really don't care what your excuse is. That's like actually one of my traits. I don't care. It's like almost my superpower.
Well,
not caring.
I don't care.
Well, I guess that's why you and John get along.
And it's always weird when people are like, do you understand why my feelings hurt? I'm like, no, because that would mean I'd have to have empathy, and that part of my brain got damaged early on. So.
Yeah,
but here's the thing: like at the end of the day, shouldn't the goal be to make you the best, right? So if the goal, when somebody shows up to your deal, their goal should be to soak all this in as a sponge, see what I'm doing, learn what I'm right. It's like, for example, if I go to a seminar or I go to something where somebody's teaching, I try to like walk in with an empty cup and like listen and be like, okay, hey, I know what you want me to do. This isn't what I do, or this might be different than what I know, but like I'm here to learn, and
Right.
there might be some potentially better. Whereas we've had people for years come up to our seminar, pay, $795, and then argue with us
Don't give
because
a shit about what you say.
or argue because, well, this is not what I was taught, or this, and you're like, well, dude, you're here to learn something else now. That and I'm always like, if you had taken this before them, you'd be doing mine and telling them the exact same thing. So like, where are we at here? So like, just open your heart, open your brain, empty your cup. Let's do this.
What's funny is on our equipment list, I actually list as part of the equipment to bring an open mind. I actually have that on the equipment list.
Because I mean, don't and I can't really say I'm much of an industry insider in terms of the gun stuff, seeing as you're really the only person I know. So like, like any question I have, I'm like, hey Jeff, what about this? You're like, that's garbage. Okay, all right. So but like, you think about like all the people that are shooting and doing defensive tactics, or
Whatever, yeah.
weapon proficiency. I mean, would you say within there's 5% variation in what people are really teaching?
Well, I always explain it this way: the bullet comes out the barrel the same way, right? Bullet's going to come out the barrel the same way. It's the how you deliver the message, because and this is something that I know that you guys run into, because everybody learns differently, right? You've got those that learn by reading, you got those that learn by watching, you got those that learn by doing. So your curriculum has to be able to accommodate all of them somehow. That's why we pass out handouts. That's why we demonstrate for the class what we want them to do. That's how come we put them out there and we have them doing it, so that we can critique and coach them to make sure they do it right. We're trying to get across to them. So, I mean, I don't understand how, people can be so resistant to learning. Granted, yeah, the bullet comes out the barrel the same way, but I see a lot of people that put out, like, I say it this way: in our level 1 class, which is a basic class, 70% of what we do is educating, 30% is correcting bad habits. In an intermediate level 2 class, we spend about 30% educating and 70% correcting bad habits, because most of those people that come to that at that point have had some training under their belt. And I don't get into this argument about, well, John says you should do it this way, Tex says you should do it that way.
Oh shit, we get in that every single day.
But what I do is it's performance. I'm like, hey, if you're meeting the standards, I don't care how you meet them. I don't care who taught you how to meet the standards. If you're meeting the standards, kick ass. Let's hit the throttle and let's get it done faster, right? Or let's get it done smoother, or let's get it done cleaner. I don't care. If you were taught one way by your grandfather, who was a World War II vet that killed all sorts of fucking, Germans, I don't care. I don't care. Again, this is my thing. This is my superpower. I don't care. I only care about performance. And if you're not meeting the standards, what I need you to do is shut your pie hole, open up your ears, listen to the message that I'm saying to you, and then try to improve. It was like, I remember one of my early mentors told me this. Like, I remember walking in one of my first platoon meetings, and he's like, all right, listen up, new guy. You have one mouth and two ears, which means you should be listening twice as much. I was like, fuck, that's
and one butthole. Did you say that to him? And he's like, you have 2 ears and one mouth and one butthole.
I did not
and
say
you
that.
Just smiled at him, like with that like creepy little smile. You're like,
no, I did not do that, John. But your creepy little smile creeps me out.
Well, that's why it's called a creepy little smile. You're like, huh?
But it's true. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if somebody shows up with the genuine interest in improving and performance, right?
Well, but this also takes back a really interesting thing that we run into is, ego is pretty powerful thing. I said the other day, their egos killed more men than cancer. And so the idea is, can you displace your ego enough to take yourself from, let's say a leadership role into a student role? Because the problem, which I've run into with a lot of people, is they don't understand that the dynamic whether or not you're in charge or, a chief or an Indian, how like that should change in every situation.
Mhm.
If you're the leader in every situation, you probably need to find a new circle,
I agree.
or you're by yourself all the time.
I completely agree.
So like, like for what we do, hey, I'm, I lead the seminar. We have this, we do this. I go work with Jeff, and I'm a student. And
Absolutely, man.
now it's his term to lead, and I'm an Indian. Tell me what I need to be the best.
I fucking love that.
And it doesn't matter whenever you go. Case in point, like working with my old neighbor yesterday, saw cut that concrete, which he's saw cut a lot of concrete, and so my job was to hold the hose and have him explain it to me over and over again, even though I'm probably pretty sure I probably could have cut the concrete after his first explanation
In a straighter line.
Dude. So my neighbor is the saltiest dude on the planet, but the biggest heart, and he wants to come out and saw this concrete. And I try to tell him, I'm like, yo, man, like I probably like depth perception wise, in terms of accuracy, proficiency, I could probably cut a straighter lighter than you. He's like, you don't know what you're fucking talking about. I've been cutting concrete for 40 fucking years, and you shut your fucking mouth. Don't cut, yelling at me. I'm like, okay, so my job's holding the hose, and I'm watching him, and that thing is like crookeder than a politician's fucking,
backbone.
Like, ethics. Dude, it was like a 104-foot cut he did. And I'm like, Tom, it's not. But then I thought, fuck it. If anybody ever asks me, I'll be like, it's my old neighbor cut. Go fuck yourself.
I'll never forget. John, hose.
Yeah.
Hose.
Like I'm fucking relegated to making sure that the hose is in the right point,
that's a critical job task. Job task, John.
But
he chose you for a reason.
And he told me that if I didn't get my head out of my ass, he was going to fire me. Did you hear him say that? He's like, better pull your head out of your ass, or I'm going to fire you. I'm like, I was like, so he,
I love that. That is awesome.
I constantly laugh. And the better part was the Hefe, the dude that was kind of in charge doing the concrete, was out there, and he's like, he kept calling Tom my uncle. And he's like, oh, your uncle? I'm like, what do you mean uncle? He's like, oh, he's not your uncle? I'm like, no, he's my neighbor. And he's like, well, how long you guys know each other? Like 30 years? I'm like, no, about 6
30
months.
days.
I'm like, about 6 months we've been friends. And the dude was completely fucking, he's like,
floored by that.
He's like, I don't talk to, like, I don't talk to my friend, like people I've known 30 years. I don't talk to my family that way. And I'm like, well, he's an interesting dude. And he's like, I can't believe you take that. I'm like, well, yeah, because he,
he's walked this planet a lot longer.
Yeah, I'm like, have a little respect and assume that
he knows what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, and he does.
The thing that bothers me about ego is number one, we all got it. I've got an ego just as much as everybody else, but you have to be able to identify what it is that you want to accomplish. What is your mission, right? Whatever it is, I want to be able to break the 400 barrier for my back squat. Right? That's your mission. And then you have to put aside everything that's going to hinder or prevent you from meeting. And the biggest one or the biggest obstacle is the ego. If more people would see that, if more people would just say, man, dude, I love sitting down and listening to your seminars. I will go in there and I will soak up so much shit. It's not even fun. I'm not soaking up shit. I'm soaking up good, valuable information. But, my point is that if more people did that, and like, if more people could make that a priority for themselves, why? Because
but see, here's the thing, and we've said it many times in this podcast, and it's really Greg Glassman's greatest contribution to the world was a quote he made, which was, "People fail at the margins of their own experience," and I find that quote to be so revealing. And Greg said it to me, but I don't know if he actually made it up, so I can't attribute it to anybody. But it's one of those things where people fail at the margin of their experience. So your experience, let's say, is being a SEAL and then working in this tactical world, teaching weapon proficiency, and have done this, and industry leader, and done all these kind of things. It gives you greater perspective. So when somebody's talking about something similar but in a different vein, like we do, you can glean something, and it's interesting to you because you can practically apply it to what you're doing.
It's very true.
So
yeah, I want to jump on this when you're done.
Yeah. Go.
So one of the beauties of the seminar, and a big part of it, is our force bleed demo.
Yeah.
The opportunity where we are instructing and lecturing on all these things that are different from people's that they've done before in training. And it's an opportunity for us to show them why the toes forward position is so important. So this is an old writing trick, movies. It's show versus tell. You don't tell an audience, you show them.
Mm-hmm.
So when battling ego, this is a very effective tool that I found, because going to different colleges, different gyms, and people are ingrained in a way. I can tell them all day and they won't listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I show them just in that instant, everything clicks and they, the walls are breaking down. If I go into a gym, a coach that has 10 times more experience than me, and they want to learn that, they become the student. So I just love showing versus telling, and it's that immediate feedback, which I'm sure you experienced in shooting.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on that. The whole part behind that is, if you can, I think a lot of times people need to know that it's attainable, right? That they can actually learn this. They can be better. They can lift more. They can run faster. And then once they do, and they see that, if they have a drive, if they're passionate about what they're going to do, you just hit like the mock button. They're going to go Mach 5 trying to figure out how they can do that better, how they can do that faster. So I love that. That's why I think demos are important. That's why I think you're right. You can't necessarily, like, if all you're going to do is just preach to somebody, you're not going to reach the best area of their brain to really get them to, because as educators, we're all educators here. As educators, our job, our goal is to educate people and to see them improve, whatever it is. So if you can't tap into that and get their brain to engage and actually work in a positive direction, then it's then unfortunately, and we all know there's going to be students that are just, you can't get to. They need to get to themselves before they can get to you.
Well, we have injuries. So in sport and training, if you don't listen to a coach, we have injuries.
Fuck yeah.
And that's a lesson. So what's something similar to shooting?
Missing the target.
Okay.
That is the biggest lesson, because that's the ultimate goal, to hit the target, right? So that's where performance is all driven.
Well, and the funny part too with the shooting, especially missing the target, is a little bit of shame. Because the funny part was I haven't had nearly as much rain time as I need to since we've been here, just because of work. But when we went to go shoot that LTC, dude, I shot perfect.
You shat perfect?
I shot perfect. But what I was actually thinking of,
one butthole,
was the lady next to me was shit, and I got messed up my head. But I remember like her looking at mine and then me looking at hers, and she kind of like gave me this shoulder shrug, like, I'm not real good at this stuff. And I'm like, you're at a license to carry class. Like, it was kind of like a little bit of shame. Like, she looked and she kind of like shrugged and was like, I'm not that good. And I'm like, and she passed. I mean, it wasn't by flying colors. I think she shot like a 70, which is, out of 50 shots is, not good or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you miss 15 out of 50. I mean, that's not that good.
Well, everybody's going to be, and what we're talking about is motivation. What motivates people to learn, to get better. And everybody has, some people need positive praise. Some people need negative praise. Some people need a reality check. Some people need that kind of shame. And that's, again, as an educator, that's your goal. When you're working with, an individual, you've got to figure out how is it that they are motivated, because you need to be able to stoke that fire, whatever it is, to get the maximum benefit or maximum potential from that person, that student, whoever it is. And that's another thing that I love doing, is trying to figure that out, because everybody's a little different.
Have you read Daniel Pink's Drive?
No. I will definitely put
I don't have it here, but once I move here, I'll give it to you.
Oh, that'd be badass.
I thought you already moved here.
Depends on your definition
By the
of
time
move.
this podcast comes out, I'll be here.
So when do you move into your new pad?
A week from yesterday, Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So we're coming up on it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And then now that you have a home base, and you don't,
and a gun,
and you get to stop.
You got all you need.
No more couch surfing. Dude, you've been couch surfing for like what, 4 years?
Yeah, I haven't paid rent in a long time.
Damn, dude.
But I've been learning from. I'm walking the earth. I'm like Kang from Kung Fu.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Walk the earth, meet
people.
Whoa. That's, there's something to be said about that for sure. But I'm happy that you're here. I'm thinking that's going to be awesome. And, that means that your entire, focal group of power players is all all in one border. Even if it's a big border, you're all under one border.
Best country in the U.S.
It is. It's true.
Texas and her 49 bitches.
The only thing which kind of got me on Texas the other day was so Sunday I went out to go where the guys were getting ready to pour for the concrete, so I ran a water line underneath the concrete and kind of got it all set up. So I'm out there kind of digging underneath the rebar, trying to get the water line under grade. and it wasn't that hot. It was probably 8:30, so it was like 90, and by like 10:30, it was like 92, but it was 100% humidity.
Oh yeah.
And it was getting ready to rain, so it was maybe 99. And I remember just sitting down, like my clothes were all soaked through, and like the girls were out there, and it was just hot. I'm thinking like, it's fucking hot today. And I was just like, it's fucking hot. Like this was like by far not the hottest number, but it was awful. And then one of the guys I know around here texted me, and he's like, man, how'd that heat treat you? I'm like, it beat my ass. He's like, you ain't in California anymore.
You ain't in Kansas anymore.
No, it's my neighbor is Jesse James.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so he's from California as well. So we'll, like, we're buddies, and we'll text. And we went over to his shop one day, but yeah, he texted me. He's like, how's that heat treating you? I'm like, dude, it kicked my fucking ass. He's like, you ain't in California.
It takes a little getting used to. I'll give you that.
Austin's a stepping stone for Houston. So
yeah, you don't have the humidity like that's a
Houston's
godsend.
Fucking awful.
That's a godsend.
Well, I can only live in humidity. Houston, DC, Austin, I'll be all right. I went to Arizona for a week. Killed me.
The dry heat.
Too dry.
Why? What did it do to you? You mean your hair wasn't quaffing?
Oh.
You just had flat hair?
I didn't have my bounce.
You didn't? You want to step off the plane here? Poof.
You know, the dry heat stuff, it's like, it's fucking hot. And you're just like,
I don't care what they say. It's when
Yeah.
when we lived in Arizona,
it's like 118.
Yeah,
Like,
when we lived in Arizona for a while there, and it was in the triple digits. I don't care who you are, 110, 112, 115 is balls hot. And it beats down on you for sure.
Well, it doesn't get much over 100 here, does it?
No. I mean, we occasionally we'll have some, maybe a week or two of triple digits, but it's going to linger at the mid 90s to high 90s for the most part here. And but I mean, here in Austin, the nice thing about Central Texas is we get that light breeze. I mean, we don't have it right now. Well, there it is, a little bit of a light breeze.
Well, being up here in the hill country, we actually have quite a breeze.
Yes, I love that. That breeze makes it all. I mean, it's heaven. It's heaven for me. I love it here. God damn it! I love it. You got awfully quiet, a little awkward there.
Yeah, what else?
I don't know what else.
We're talking about the weather.
I know, shit, that's bad.
No, but in Texas, but think about this. In Texas, the weather is actually something. Like in California, people don't talk about the weather because it's the same fucking every day. Here in Texas, like when you meet people there, like the other day I was at went to the market or whatever, and like first thing the checker says, pretty hot out today. And I was like,
Did they ask you for if you want ice for your grocery bags?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's a big thing.
Yeah, that is a thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because this morning I was working out, and like I have to be very cognizant of that heat when I'm working out. Our friend Harry there, he loves to turn that fan off when he's talking. I'm like, you just need to start screaming. You need to start hollering. I don't want that fucking fan off, man. That's gonna.
Harry's pretty good in the heat, isn't he? It doesn't seem to bother him.
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think it does.
Do you think that the people of Mexican descent can handle heat better?
I don't know. It appears as though he has no complaints about it. What's funny is like I'll turn the fan on right away. Like I don't care. I want it on now. Just talk louder. That's my thought. It's
so Harry came over to our building and we did spray foam, and so he just shot him over the contact information for the dude that did spray foam. Spray foam there because he's like, dude, he goes, we got to do something. It's too hot. And if you spray foam the ceiling, at least it's like 20, 30 degrees cooler.
Dude, it's a big difference. And but what it teaches me too is like you need to modulate your performance in that type of conditions. Those conditions, you're not like, I want to say I'm pushing at 100%. I'm not, you're just not. Cause as soon as I step away from that fan, I just start overheating. And when I move into the dry air.
Do you think that's, might have anything to do with what you maybe had done earlier in your life? Like I always think like, like especially as a SEAL or whatever, I mean, you've done like the heat exhaustion, the cold, all that other stuff. And I sometimes think that, and the only reason I'm saying this is I played with a dude who, we were in training camp and he got like rhabdo messed up.
Oh,
like
shit.
He was like, we didn't know it was rhabdo, but now that like I know what rhabdo is, he totally had rhabdo.
Wow.
Fucked himself up, and it was hot. I mean, we were in Turlock, Central California in August, and it was 108 degrees.
Jesus.
And we were out there for 2 hours pushing the sled, out there in
college?
pads. No, yeah, college. And one of the guys got heat exhaustion and went to the hospital and was messed up. And I remember he was fucked up for a long time after that. I remember during the game, he'd be like, man, I'm just too tired. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so I always wonder if maybe you pushed yourself beyond the bounds, but I mean,
Well, I think that's a good question. I feel like I have a pretty good perception of my performance. Like I know, I'm going to need to probably tone it back a little bit, because otherwise, as soon as I stop, like I've done that a couple times recently, I get done with the workout.
And
I'm
Harry
like,
likes long Metcons. And I only know this because my wife comes home and bitches about them. So so Jeff trains at the housewives class with my wife. Over there. So but she comes back, she's like, I can't believe these fucking long Metcons.
Yeah.
We need to talk to him. We need to lift some fucking weights.
I know. I'm the same way. Like we did power snatches the other day, and I walked out of the gym with this huge grin on my face, like, yes, I love this. I mean, I don't mind doing those long ones, but that heat really, I mean, you have to factor that in. Because if you want optimal performance from somebody, and if they're going to try to push at a high intensity level, that heat is a factor.
So for let's take it back to the shooting stuff. I was going to ask you on this question a little bit.
Go for it.
Is like, what's the single, like if you could say to somebody who was, had shot firearms, was fairly decently proficient, that wanted to get better, not like not advanced, but not a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
Like what would be some of the top things like that they could do? I mean, is it something like physical fitness? Is it, maybe are they at the point where there might be a certain weapon that might be more advantageous to the way they shoot? Or is it like, I mean,
well, I'll tell you, that's, first of all, you're never going to get an argument from me about improving your fitness. That to me, I don't care what it is that you're doing. I think you can do it better if you're more fit.
Have you had anybody come to one of your classes and then, fairly unfit, get into fitness?
Oh, fuck yeah.
And then all of a sudden come back and they're like,
fuck yeah,
way better?
Oh my God, dude. And it's awesome to watch. I can't even count the number of people, because I post it up there. I make it pretty clear in my personal post. I don't necessarily shove it in your face, but I make it pretty clear that I take it seriously. And that has a lot to do with, I can't recall a time in my life where fitness wasn't important. All the way back to high school, when it was real serious in high school, and then obviously in my naval career. And it's never,
how do you define fitness?
Don't you do it?
Well, no.
Damn good question.
No, because you got Fergie going up in the gym just working on my fitness. And then you got this stuff. We got fitness as we know, through CrossFit, or we have fitness
I'll pull out super training.
He has super training. I mean, also the guy who I can't remember his name right now. The guy who presented when I was at Harvard for Ancestral Health Symposium talked about fitness is your ability to have this offspring. So technically,
Darwin's definition, correct?
No, I can't remember, but just how it worked is that, it was Darwin, but the idea that, an organism is one thing on the planet to reproduce, and the more you reproduce, the higher your level of fitness is. So, I'm fitter than Jeff because I have 3 kids. He has 2.
Oh, Jesus
we are all way more fit than Tex because he has no shape.
So, I am a big believer in defining your mission. And then, I define fitness as my ability to execute my mission at peak performance. That's how I define it. So you really, in other words, it's a very, you have to really kind of think about it. Like, well, what is your mission? Like for me, we've talked about this. Like when we first started working on a program for myself.
What are you training for?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like really big. I need to be able to lift something heavy off the floor. I need to be able to pull myself with all my kit on over a wall. I need to be able to, carry somebody on my back. And then I need to be able to push something off the ground if I had to. So, it basically covered all the range of motions that you typically see. And I just wanted to be as strong as I could in all those range of motions.
Yeah, we also had to work around, Jeff had a pretty nasty wrist injury.
Oh yeah.
And that was very inhibitive for him to do just about everything. And I remember just realizing why he had the wrist injury, how we can fix it, things. And then I remember we loaded it very, very slowly to the point where he was like, I can snatch, I can do handstand push-ups, I can do push-ups. Because when we first started, you had to do all your push-ups on knuckles.
I did.
And now he's got to the point where he's here. So, it's
funny story about that.
Progression.
It was a very slow progression. So my kids, don't do this at home. If you're on target, don't punch somebody in the face with a closed fist. That's definitely going to hurt you in the end. That's how I broke my hand. That's how I broke my wrist, was I hit somebody on target with a closed fist. And I didn't know it at the time. It wasn't until I got back to back to base that I was like, oh my God. And all these bones right here.
Let's put it correctly. You didn't hit the person properly.
I'm a firm believer that I don't hit people with closed fists anymore.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you hit somebody with a closed fist, I mean, obviously you know this. If you line up these two knuckles here, post from here, you can break it.
Yes,
Normally
but
it's-
I also have to ask that
So-
person to stand still while I hit them, which is typically not what happens.
Well, probably the issue was you had not been proficient throwing enough punches because you hadn't practiced it to the point of detriment where
That's a
now all of a sudden
possibility.
as you hauled off and you go crack this dude, you know.
That's a
weren't-
very
didn't have
distinct
proper-
possibility.
yeah, so-
Very that I was ignorant is what
no,
you're trying to say.
You just hadn't developed the training reservoir
That's
to be
true.
able to sock some dude in the face. So now you just go for the open hand slap.
I do. It's great. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. I love it. So, and that was one of those things that I appreciated about your field of expertise was that you were able, and when we started really digging into this, you were able to find me a way to make the gains that I needed to make without being hindered by my wrist. And now, my wrist is, I don't know if it's 100%, but it's better. It's better than it's ever been.
Well, I mean, you haven't complained about it, and you're able to do everything you wanted to do. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I remember that was when we first started, like a big obstacle. But I mean, also
Pissed
too,
me off so much.
he had gotten really stuck in like a lot of similar movement patterns, like we know a lot of people doing. So by varying, primal movement patterns,
Wow, I
he's,
fucking love it.
supine, up, down, left, right, rotation, all that. I mean, all of a sudden it worked really well. And also we developed a kind of a modified linear progression for him. Because even though he trained for a long time, he had never done like a basic linear type progression. And then I think I saw, then all of a sudden he's doing this thing. And then I see some video of you like squatting what it was something crazy, like double body weight for 5 reps. And I'm like, holy shit.
We saw some crazy numbers early on. I love that. I mean, like my, that was impressive. I remember texting you, like every time I'd be like, dude, I just fucking pulled this off. This is so badass. And you were genuinely surprised, or not surprised, but excited as well.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, anytime, somebody's able to hit massive PRs where they were like, I didn't think I'd be able to do this stuff. And then all of a sudden they're squatting double body weight. Like I see some video on Facebook and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, dude, that's awesome. And he's like, I can't fucking believe it. And, for a guy that travels on the road a lot, so
it's hard. But I love it. And I'll tell you what, man, that's the other thing that I've really, like, I love your approach towards strength, how you attack it. Like you have this intellect that I hate to, can we just like, maybe like,
we can cut this out.
Can we cut
Kelly,
this?
don't cut this out.
Kelly, edit this out.
Kelly, don't edit this out, which means she's going to edit it. She doesn't fucking edit. I don't even think she listens to these anymore. Kelly, if you're listening to this, text me both.
So the thing that I appreciate is that you're like, I've enjoyed watching how you like create the program. Like it's like watching you sit there and you kind of like, you're doing your magic. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, look at that. Oh, it's awesome. And then before you know it, you've got like a 12-week program that's just badass. And it's like you said, it's progressive. It hits all those primal movements. I've seen, trust me, I'm fucking happy as well, I was going to say pig and shit, but maybe I'll just go with a clam.
But
happy as a clam.
I mean, really the goal for you especially was to develop a program that made you strong enough and fit enough and was able to fix enough things so that you could walk into any CrossFit and be able to jump in as RX and do well and be competitive. And that was what was cool, was because I mean, I remember when we first started, you were like, oh, fuck that stuff, I can't do this. And I'm like, I'm telling you, man, like if you can fix all this stuff, because I mean, CrossFit and a lot of these functional fitness things are a lot more fun if you're not injured. If you have full range of motion, you can actually do shit.
Dude,
it's fun. You get out there, you compete, you can do this, and that's a good time. But if you're constantly having to modify or change or avoid shit because you're fucked up, it's not very much fun.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And like I remember, like one of the first times you walked in and you were like, "Oh, I can't snatch," and then all of a sudden you snatch, and you're like, "Oh shit, now I can go do these things."
Yes.
And that's what's cool for us, especially to see somebody like, go through the methodology, come out. I mean, you've been to a bunch of different seminars, and then all of a sudden you come in and you're like, okay, I'm good now. Now I can do this.
And when do you progress to the normal classes instead of the mom class?
Oh, come on.
Well, it's because he likes to train shirtless with all the fake weight moms.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So yeah, you know what? It's fucking hot there. I walk out. I would almost say that, like, I've seen Luke sweat, I think, and I don't know.
Luke's a sweaty dude.
Yeah. So I'm like,
but you can't see him sweat because his beard is so thick.
Oh, that's true.
That's why he's got it.
Yeah, that's
well,
why.
he actually told me he's shaving that thing.
Oh,
yeah,
by the time this comes out, he will not have a beard.
Wow. But yeah, I do. I love it. I love the programming. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. You guys are really pioneers in a lot of respects. And again, Callie, make sure you edit that out.
Yeah. So what's next? So what's up for Jeff in 2017, 2018?
I am, like you mentioned, I am the director of training at the range at Austin, which is a 52,000 square foot indoor facility. I love it. This has been a great opportunity for me to travel less and try to work more on curriculum and trying to bring new people into the fold. So that's my primary mission right now, is getting a lot of people, first-time gun owners, new shooters, getting them in there, getting them educated, getting them competent, and then sending them on their way. So that's kind of me right now. 2018 is going to look pretty much the same, only we're going to be hitting it a lot harder. We'll have, we didn't open up until February this year. So, next year I think is going to be a really good year for us. We're seeing so many good things happen for us right now that next year I only see it getting better.
So you think Austin was really ready for a high-end shooting range?
I think they are. The nice thing about it was, we're so convenient. I mean, it's crazy. We're literally, minutes from downtown, minutes from the airport.
Unless you drive by it.
Yeah.
And then you have to make a U-turn.
Yeah.
That's
sucks.
not, no.
Well,
so the first time when I was going on my way to onto the class, I literally started driving too fast, shoot right by it. And he's texting me. He's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Dude, I fucking drove past it." And then you have to drive like a mile down the road and make this total arduous U-turn and thing. And
it's a pain in the ass. Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck, we need more signs earlier."
We are working on
not
that.
Drive 90.
Yeah, that's also a plus. We're working on that. So I'm super excited about that. It's been something that I wanted to do, because the thing that I've always struggled with, and I'm sure you struggle with this, is you go to a location, wherever it is. Like I go to Los Angeles and I go there and I train and I see some familiar faces, right? But I saw them a year ago.
Sure.
And I get to see them again. So yeah, they've probably done some stuff between now and then, but I don't get to really have that much of an influence on their development because there's such a big time span in between. Now, with a home base and seeing so many familiar faces coming in on a more regular, consistent basis, it is awesome to see that. I'm really happy, because things that I feel are very important is consistency and sustainability. And if you can't do that,
and this will allow you to dive deeper into your curriculum, because you'll see
Things
how
that-
fast people are progressing.
It's really nice. Like,
So how many Tricon courses are you holding at the range?
so basically what we do now is we offer everything from an intro all the way to basic, intermediate, and advanced. I think every month we're putting out like 5 to 6 different classes. And it's nice that I have an instructor staff now. So I'm not technically doing all of those classes, but the curriculum that I designed is being taught in all those classes. So that's good. I'm still traveling on the road. I still have that going, but I'm only doing like maybe 6 to 8 classes now, which is so nice.
Yeah.
It's nice because when I get that urge to get on the road again, it's just the right time. Just the right time. And then I get on the road and I realize how much I hate it. And I come back home and I'm like, yay. Not that I hate it. It's just, it's the little things that you don't like.
So anything in the political landscape upsetting you lately?
Where do I begin?
I don't know. I told Tex, I'm like, I usually have some pretty good political conversations with Jeff. So I just wondered if there was anything in the, because I'd like to think that you're somewhat of a moderate conservative.
I would say that that would probably ping me pretty good, pretty close, pretty accurate. Yes. I'll tell you this. This is what I find interesting. Austin obviously has a liberal slant, and where we're at, we're so convenient to the downtown area. And I find that there is a good number of people that are truly curious, interested in what we do. And a lot of them are brave enough and courageous enough that even though it may not be within their liberal family, condoned, they are coming out and they're educating themselves. And when they do, what I find is that a lot of times there's so much misinformation, so much wrong information, so many lies, that they're, a common response is like, wow, I was not expecting this. I was not expecting this at all, because it was.
Is it fair to say liberals are not technically gun owners?
No. I find that that's the irony, is that now we're seeing more of them that are becoming interested. And what I believe that a lot of them might be socially liberal, but I think maybe deep down they're kind of like closet conservatives, because in their social circles they kind of have to put this front up, and then
Why is it considered that if you own a weapon or are involved in shooting in some way, then obviously you're a card carrying conservative Republican?
I think that there could be that myth. I know that a lot of, like, when I've talked to some of them, and the interesting conversations that I've had, again, a lot of times they come back like, I wasn't expecting that, and this was good. I really am glad that I did this. That's the other thing. Like, I'm glad that I did this, and I kind of like, because obviously I want to educate people, so I'm like, okay, well, what really was the big deal? I mean, why did you? And a lot of it has to do with what their social cliques kind of, I guess, mandate as being what is good and what is not good. What is cool, what is uncool, what is good or bad. And, so like I was saying, I think a lot of them were socially liberal, but then they're kind of like inside their confines of their own home, they might be a little bit more conservative than many people think. And so this is an interesting subject for them, and they want to explore it. And we create an open environment that allows them to do that without, feeling like, because there is a negative stigma within our industry of, and it's perpetuated many times by the anti-gun kind of like marketing machine of us being this crazy kind of like a lunatic or unstable or blah 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 blah. And it's perpetuated in the media, and it's perpetuated in all their kind of communications. And then all of a sudden they come to find out that, holy shit, these guys are actually pretty smart, or gosh, these guys are just normal people, or my god, I never, and it kind of demythifies a lot of that. And then as soon as that wall is broken down, because that's one of the things I try to do, is break walls, break barriers, then they're a little bit more open, and we have intelligent conversations. Like, I don't care what I don't care what you do. I don't care what you think. I don't care about any of that. Like I said, again, my superpower is not caring. And so what I care about is when whatever.
Whoa! You totally contradicted yourself. You said your superpower is not caring, but now you just told me you cared about something.
Yeah, I care about not caring.
Oh, okay. Well, let's keep that on there.
So when they start to come out there, and we have these great discussions, and I'm open to dialogue. I will engage with you. I will talk to you, because here's the thing: if you're going to have a conversation that has that's a heated subject, right? The only thing that I ask is that you come with an open mind, and because here's what I'm doing. I'm going to engage in a dialogue with you, and what I'm expecting is that you're going to provide me with information that's going to change my perspective. And then I'm going to change the way that I think, feel, or believe, right? So that's your job, to convince me of that, persuade me of that.
You're actually going to listen, which is important.
Right, exactly. And if at the end of your discussion, I don't feel as though that reflects in a positive manner with me, or that's going to change the way I feel, it's cool, right? I'm okay with that. I don't have to have you believe in what I believe, and I don't have to believe in what you believe, right? But I'm willing to listen to you, because here's the thing. You got to acknowledge that, number one, you don't know everything. There might be something that you put out that I learned that is valuable, and I want to take with me, because that's my ultimate goal. As a human species, we want to continue to dominate the world. So the only way that's going to happen is by getting better, getting smarter, getting good at what we do. So if that means that I can learn from you, I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to take whatever it is that I can, and whatever I can, I discard. It's like, no big deal. Don't get butthurt because I don't just jump onto whatever you're believing. You have to persuade me with enough conviction that it makes sense to me. And the other thing that I tell people is that you also need to, like, if you can't have that mindset that, okay, maybe I'm wrong here, let me listen to what this, because I asked this person before we even start talking, is it possible that you could be wrong? And if they can't even acknowledge that, then there's no way that conversation is going to go well. But if they can at least say, you know what, it's possible. I might be wrong. And that's why I'm willing to engage with you, because let's try to figure this out. Let's have an adult conversation and see what we can come up with. So love those. They're fascinating. They're intriguing. A lot of times, you get to learn about the other, we walk the planet with humans all over the place. And it seems to me ineffective to not have relationships with all these other humans. It just doesn't seem smart. Now, on the flip side, I do not tolerate people that are just, it's my way or the highway. You got to believe this, or if you don't, you're condemned, you're, demonized, you're whatever. I have no patience for that whatsoever. Zero tolerance for that, and I'll let them know, and that's how that rolls. Like, when I see people losing the argument, the first thing they do is they go right into character assassination. And that's the
attacks.
Exactly. And so, but I always combat that with, listen, I don't need you to be emotional here. I need you to be reasonable. I need you to use logic. Tell me why. Tell me your why, and then back up your why. What are
Yeah, but I
your
mean, aren't most people? I mean, if you think about if everybody took a logical approach to argument, then we would have a lot of really intelligent conversations, and then people would learn. But the
True.
problem is that people are so steeped in emotion.
Oh God.
That like emotion becomes this dividing factor, and
For sure.
especially when you get into something that is. Uh, I guess you could say is hot button, and really is just
Yeah.
as
It's
as raw
very
as,
much.
as weapons. You start talking about guns, which is kind of interesting, and I wonder where this really changed because. I mean, there was a point in our lives where you could order a shotgun from Sears and Roebuck, and
Jesus.
it was mail ordered here.
Yeah.
And guns weren't registered. They gun safes. I mean,
Yeah.
they hung over the mantle. And
I
they
remember
they
back
were,
of the trucks and the window, the rear windows of all of our trucks growing up
Truck
as a kid.
guns.
Yes.
So
That was an original truck gun.
So, where did this really this complete identity shift, where a gun was considered a tool that people used and for hunting? I mean, it didn't like have this stigmatism. Where at what point did the stigmatism come, and where we are today?
Well, the good thing about that is that it didn't happen overnight. That's the thing that I try to get across to people. There wasn't a single event that occurred that turned it. It was a level of, I believe that it was a systematic dismantling. It was something that was thought out and well executed to some extent, and they were in it for the long haul. They didn't want to see those.
Who's they?
That's the good question. I think I believe it would be those that are fearful of freedom, that can't appreciate the importance behind living as a free man, that they have
They
to.
take it for granted.
Or that's a better way of putting it.
Well,
They probably
but
take
you
it
got
for
to
granted.
remember, a lot of people, the thought, like, even though they say, oh, we're a free society, we're a free planet, or I'm a free person, are controlled in so many different confines that, like, the idea of freedom is almost a little scary, and I don't really think people tend to really even
God,
want it
no,
that much.
because well, that's the thing. They don't want to be saddled with the responsibility. Right? Freedom of choice, freedom to make a decision that has consequences, right?
Sure.
They don't want to be saddled with those consequences. They want somebody to do it all for them. And I think that's what people fear the most. I think, and when you see a single mother that decides that she wants to be able to defend her family on her own, she's making that choice. She's comfortable making that choice because to her family is what matters, not somebody's opinion of her. And she goes out there and she learns and she buys a gun and she educates herself. She gets her LTC. That to me is progress. That to me is what I want to see continues. And I'm not just stereotyping on the female gender there, everybody. I want, because if you can't be responsible for your own safety, I mean, I find it illogical for you to expect to be responsible for other things. Right? I mean, I would love to have a individual that stood at my side that was just solely responsible for my safety. I didn't have to do shit. That's just not the world that we live in. It never will be. I was listening to somebody talk the other day, and the average response time in the U.S. is 4 minutes. It takes you 17 seconds to bleed out. If you're,
Well, but you also have to remember the Supreme Court handed down a pretty interesting decision, which was the police are not there to defend you.
Correct.
The police are there to investigate and arrest and enforce the law.
Absolutely.
So they investigate and they arrest. So, I mean, there was a whole deal where I think it was 3 women were held captive in an apartment, and they called 911. They cries for help. They called the police. Police didn't show. They were assaulted. I mean, over like 3 days this happened. And finally, a neighbor went in and ended up freeing these ladies. They got out and they sued and went to Supreme Court. And Supreme Court decision was that the police are not there to defend you.
Mm-mm.
So that I remember
they're there to uphold the law.
Yeah, they're investigate, arrest, and uphold the law is really it. And and so if somebody were to harm you, then they would investigate and arrest, and then they would apply the law at that point. But their job is not to be the barrier between you and harm.
That's a hard thing for people to acknowledge.
No,
because it's scary.
Well, it is scary, and it means that you have to be personally responsible for your personal safety and those around you. So it's pretty interesting. I didn't grow up a gun owner. My dad doesn't own guns. We didn't. I learned to shoot at Boy Scout camp. It wasn't until I was in college that I was as you guys know, a rhetoric major, but I had to read all this founding fathers, John Locke, really like the framers of the Constitution, and just read all this kind of early Constitution writing, Thomas Jefferson, and you realize that that the way that they talk about, whether it be George Washington, these guys talk about owning weapons and being able to call it the militia and defense of liberty. And I left there and I was like, I'd never really thought about owning a gun, but when I can afford to own one, and it was one of the first things I bought after I bought a TV. I bought a gun.
Priorities.
And
and cheese.
and I remember I felt if I was going to be a voting citizen that paid taxes, that lived in America, that part of my social responsibility was to be proficient and own a weapon. And I did. And that was, I think it was funny. And I remember having this conversation with my dad, who's been a lawyer for, over 50 years. And I remember him telling me, the amount of issues and problems and gun related things that he had seen over all these years, made him not a believer in people owning weapons. And and that's his personal deal. And I remember him being like, the amount of accidental deaths, shootings, this, he goes, it just, if and I told him, my dad, I completely agree. If everybody, if somebody could wave a wand and every weapon could disappear and nobody had any, then I'm totally cool with it. But if one person has one, I want one.
Well, I love that. I love that argument. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's make all the guns disappear, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get my baseball bat and I'm gonna crack you with a skull. Yeah. So I mean,
and then everybody will get baseball bats,
and everybody will get baseball
bats
and
hard helmets, and that's the thing. Like, that's where it really becomes.
It's not the object. It's the violence in the heart of man.
Well, but you think about too, a lot of the politicians and the people that that are really the big we need to take guns away from private citizens, but yet you watch them walking everywhere, and they're guarded by Secret Service, and they're behind bulletproof glass. And they have full security teams that are ready when willing. And I'm like, yeah, you don't really need a gun if you have 6 or 7 well-trained individuals carrying you everywhere.
I have always found that to be a very hypocritical point of view, to have somebody that lives in a sheltered life try to comment on the average American citizen. Like, when's the last time you actually were a blue collar worker that had put food on the table for your family, that had to pay the rent, had to do all that stuff, and then also have to protect your family?
Well, I mean, isn't that an argument where, if you look at the majority of Trump's supporters were blue collar people, but yet they voted for a person who was a billionaire of a billionaire's son,
yes, that's true,
who's never worked a single day,
yep,
and doesn't subscribe to any of the ethics or the what I would consider American normal society.
I would say that they were. If I had to. I can't obviously speculate on why they might have voted, but I can tell you that it seems as though most people voted because they truly wanted to see change and not hope for it. They wanted to see it. And I believe that he really
embodied change.
Well, I think
something different than the establishment.
I think that's the key thing. It was different. He wasn't a career politician. He might have been involved in politics, but he wasn't a career politician. He did things differently in his career. I think his shrewd business acumen has benefited us at this point. I mean, I don't try to go down into the weeds of all this little shit. I look at the big stuff. Like, I look at how the stock market is doing.
Yeah.
I look at how we are it's like, nobody's talking about that. You have to actually go and find stories buried
well,
in like the 5th page.
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it too, I mean, and I even kind of joked with Kate about this. She kind of was like, we'll come home and she'll be like, man, you should hear what they're saying about, what's going on in the political landscape. We talk about this stuff. And I always tell her, I'm like, let's, let me give you a little history lesson and go through all the issues that, all the presidents have had, and we can just go back to Obama. I mean, there were certain things like the Fast and the Furious. I mean, just things where they were, selling guns to. I mean, there's
all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, real bad that are impeachable, bad, major offenses, and those things were kind of like just
but I think a lot of the reasons why was because they did not receive the same attention in the media during that time period.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if you think about, like, if let's say three of us all own a media company and we get together and we want to put out a singular message. Now, I've made it very clear in here, I didn't vote for Trump, and I think he's I really hope he's punking us with some of these things. But I also really hope that at some point we get some political candidates that are actually not so far out of touch with reality, because I feel like a lot of the people, at least when I hear a lot of people speak, I think to myself, God damn, this dude has been so far away from from actual real life outside of
Right.
Washington that they don't have any concept of this.
I think that's the key thing. It's like,
Term limits.
Well, I'm all for term limits. I think that's great. I feel like, I feel like there's a lot of little things that you can do. I would like to see the little guy in the large political arena, but unfortunately, politics is about money.
Oh, yeah.
Politics, getting elected, is all about how big your bank account is, how much money you can.
And what was pretty interesting was, there was the reason that is because they equate that money to exposure to the media.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
what always kind of makes me laugh is Trump spent significantly less money,
Yeah, he did.
but all he did was say really crazy shit, and
It
the
got
media
published.
fucking followed him like he was paying their salaries, and he wasn't. And like, to me, it's pretty interesting that the media did more. And so I like,
Yeah, they did.
People are like, oh, how did Trump get elected? I can't believe this buffoon did this. And I'm like,
Yeah,
the media did it.
Yeah.
The liberal media, who couldn't believe the things he was saying, effectively kept him on repeat 24 hours a day, talking about how awful this person is. And if you think about it, if you just keep showing it over and over again, people are going to buy in.
Eventually, it's a
they
war of
got-
attrition at that point.
Yeah, there's as much to blame. And it's pretty interesting when you hear, I don't know how this happened. I'm like,
It's not that hard to figure out.
yeah, you guys talked about it.
It's not that hard to figure out.
And and then the other crazy part is the Democratic Party ran such a broken candidate with so many holes
Ooh.
that even I looked at some polling stuff yesterday that actually said Hillary Clinton's likable approval rate was lower than Trump's. So they asked people like, so what do you think? And so you have two candidates. I think Trump has got like the lowest approval rating, like in the 30s right now or something.
Something like that, I'm
pretty
sure.
low. And
What does
Hillary
that
was like
even
20, 26. So I'm thinking to myself, the two candidates we had up, over 3/4 of America did not approve that they
Well,
could.
there's a lot of people out there that were 100% against Hillary, 99% against Trump.
Exactly.
So that's what.
That's
made
exactly
their
what it
decision.
boiled down to. But you were right, John. The media being able to propagate that message over and over and over again. I think that was one of the things. I mean, at least I got tired of it. I got tired of listening to it. I'm like,
well,
Jesus,
it's
mute.
like it's like you can't even turn on. I mean,
Oh, hell no.
there's nothing discussed on any other news channel right now other than, I can't believe Trump just did this. He just said this. He did this. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, to the point where I think, is nothing else happening, or are they diverting our attention?
I think there's. So here's a fun fact for you. I have officially abandoned all mainstream media. I've officially abandoned it. I have no interest in learning. I have no interest in understanding what they're putting out, because I have very little faith in what they're putting out. Right. So now I have to go to other sources to try to find information that is more
Like
accurate.
Algiers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, believe it or not, I find the European
Papers are way more accurate.
way more accurate. And I despise that, because I'm like, what the fuck? How come I
Well,
have to go to Europe to find out what's going on
what's
in
funny
America?
is if I read something, I instantly check the BBC.
Yep.
And I read what the BBC says, and then I realize, like, you're reading the exact same story put into, from two different sides, and you can kind of start to figure out
Absolutely.
what the truth is, like the whole Paris Accord thing, and
Oh God.
reading their take on it, and like, versus what we were putting out here is like completely different.
Dude, it is sad to see that. I mean, and sometimes it's flat out 180 degrees. And I'm like, how can you as a journalist be that off the mark? Really? How can you be that
by
bad?
putting your emotion and opinion into a piece?
Precisely. And I always am fond of that, because I always thought journalism was about reporting the truth. That's how I always looked at it. Like, okay, they're going to put out this information. They're going to present all the facts. And then I am supposed to make a decision. I'm supposed to formulate my opinion based on all the information that they're putting out. Not just half.
But don't you think, like, if you were, like, and I always think that, like, somewhere there's some evil dude in like an underground, like,
Bunker.
Yeah, like a volcano lair, like twisting his mustache as they say, "Mwah, mwah." Like, if you think about, if the easiest way to control people is through fear.
I agree.
Right. So, like, like you think about, like, herding cattle, or just really anything, like, the dog barks, they snap, they, start moving, and it's like commotion and fear. And then that's how they move things. Like, people don't really, it's hard to wrangle people up, like, hey, please, can you walk over here? No, you have to, they use fear to drive emotion and to really push people in certain ways. And I think
so true.
There is really, I think, no medium happening right now in the world faster than if you look at the fear that they're trying to generate within it. Like, And I heard a guy who made a great point. Like, I remember after all this, he's like, I'm still going to wake up and I'm going to go do my job. And he even made a point. He's like, how much is the government really involved in my daily existence?
Very
I have
little.
to pay taxes. I know, and he kind of went through all the little ways. He goes, but for the most part, I have to get up, I have to eat breakfast, I got to get my kids going, I got to do this, this, and this. And he kind of talked about like how potentially his life could be influenced, through different ways. And he's like, at the same rate, you have the decision to decide, what your level of involvement, how you want to be affected,
For sure.
and how you want to go. And I just think it's pretty interesting. Like when you saw like the Trump thing, like these people are screaming and crying in the streets, and I'm like, dude, it just blows my mind.
So we at my university, so I still keep in touch with my old college coach. And after this is in Arlington, across the river from DC, they had a day of safe space.
Yeah.
So there was one person on the staff that said we need to open up a safe space for students. So out of 3,500 kids, three students showed up.
That's hilarious.
What pisses me off, though, 150 faculty show up.
Oh my
So
God.
you have these people that are emotionally distraught by the situation, that then they have to take a day off from teaching the students their responsibility, right? And then I am afraid of them injecting their opinion in the information, whether it has to do with social studies or anything on these kids. And
there's no question that the college campuses are just fraught with that type of mentality. I don't think it's exclusive to your college, your alma mater. I think it's nationwide. I mean, what really bothers me is like when you see a college campus that is supposed to be a beacon of education.
Yeah, but typically, for the most part, like the people that professors and whatnot, and they'll even a lot of the students. I mean, and I maybe have a little tinge on this because I went to Berkeley.
What?
But amazing.
Imagine that.
Yeah, you want to talk about epicenter for liberal existence. But the teachers and the people that looked at it as their social responsibility to come back and teach tended to have more, I would say, a liberal mindset. And then the people that come to a place like Berkeley tend to have a little bit more of that type of. But there's also this weird kind of arrogance almost that if you're a free thinker, educated, went to a good university, you should be liberal. And
right.
that like the knuckle dragger, hillbilly, or like this guy
exactly
is he's conservative because he isn't more
or he couldn't afford to go to a good college.
Yeah. Or if he was more intelligent, he would see all these social problems, then he would become socially liberal. And
that's another problem,
which is blows my mind because
you're not smart enough.
As I went to Berkeley, obviously a very liberal place. I think I became more conservative in my outlook than I was before I went there. And I remember seeing these things and like seeing the social response or the social issues around me, and then seeing like, okay, like for example, homelessness or this, and then all of a sudden you see these guys shooting up on the corner, and obviously, okay, no, these guys are homeless because of drugs. And then you see the crime and you see these things kind of going out, and everybody's like, oh, we have to help them. And I'm like, well, you know what, like what's the fix for a lot of this stuff? But as I kind of got more and more into this thing, you see that like there's never a one size fits all, and to get grouped into one kind of mindset, because I like to think I'm conservative in some ways, I'm liberal in others. Like, and then at the end of the day, I realized I just want less government. That's it. I just don't want people to tell me what to do. Like, and I support it. Like, hey, if you want to smoke weed, that's on you. You go smoke weed. I don't smoke weed. Go do it. If you want to own a weapon, you should be able to own a weapon. Like, if you want to, be able to do the things that you want, free of some form of hindrance, then like go for it. So I just look at it like, less government's better. But with the liberal stuff, I mean, that's more of a conservative approach.
Yeah, not telling you what to do from a government, and then a college not telling you what to think, teaching you how to think.
Yeah,
setting you up for success for the future, and then.
Well, that's what I appreciate, especially about Berkeley, is there was never a point. Maybe I was as lucky with my professors where they were never telling us like, yes, this is what you need to think. It was always like presenting all the information, and then you, as an educated individual, you come to your own conclusions based off of what you want to investigate. And I think today, which kind of blows me away, is we have maybe a lot of people within university that are working to try to tell these kids what to think. This is what you should feel. This is what you should do, instead of allowing them to kind of grow and figure it out on their own.
Well, I will tell you that my thought process in that is exactly what Tex just said. Don't tell me what to think. Tell me how to think. How do I create a process that allows me to evaluate the world around me and make my own decisions on my own? Right. That's the key thing that I think the many educators have lost their way in that sense. I think they, like, I don't know what the deal is. I feel like at times they feel they have to justify their perspective to all the students. Like this is the only viewpoint you can have. You can't have any other viewpoint, right? And my thing is like I don't care what you think. I mean I care that what you think doesn't affect how I live. Like your thought process doesn't repress me or repress my ability to do things. That's it. I don't care. If you have that viewpoint, keep your viewpoint.
Yeah, but maybe you're not smart enough, so then they have to
Right.
take care of you like a child.
Exactly. That's the other thing. It's like I get that you feel that way, but that is your feelings, and your feelings don't trump my rights. It's just that simple.
Sure.
You know, that's how I look at it. I'm like, hey, man, that's great that you want to feel that way. I really don't care because, again, there's that superpower because your feelings don't trump my rights. Simple. I like simple. Simple is good.
Nothing else, Tex?
We're all looking at you.
Oh, yeah, no, bring it. You got any other?
Sure. Just getting into it. I'm trying to, I guess, navigate this as a 30-year-old. I'll call myself conservative here, and understanding idealists, fundamentalists, and people that are trying to, again, like Jeff was talking about, push their opinions on, I don't know, the youth. Because being a 30-year-old white male navigating this world, when I lived in DC, that was not fun. I was public enemy numero uno.
Oh, because you were white or because you were male?
Both.
Yeah. Both. And you probably were also slightly
and you're from
conservative.
Texas. So instantly, you know, Texas is nothing but, you know, hillbillies and rednecks. So, I mean, you guys are down there.
That we're too stupid to understand people's
We can't make our own minds up. Right.
Yeah, just too dumb.
I'm not enlightened enough to understand how stupid your viewpoint is.
Well, but that was almost fuel for the fire for a lot of conversations, and just kind of walk them into their own shit, like back them into
but what
contradictions.
So I remember my freshman year of college, I went into this class, Education 40, taught by a guy named Pedro Noguera. And I remember sitting there and him telling us, if you're a white male, you're an oppressor, and you have to get used to while you're here on this campus, you will be known as an oppressor. And he was not saying it like you're an oppressor and I'm telling you to oppress me. He was making a very conscious statement that people are going to treat you based off of the social dynamic. And in this class, he's like, and he didn't say, hey, I disagree or agree or anything. He's just like, just know if you're a white male on this campus, you're going to be known as an oppressor.
Yeah.
And the sooner that you realize this, then the sooner that you can work to either dispel this or change this or propagate or do whatever. And then he went through this whole thing like, you know, if you're an Asian, then they feel that, you know, and he went through all these kind of social stereotyping. And I remember rapping with him one time, and he was like, you know what you should do? And I wore glasses. He's like, yeah, don't take those glasses off. Why? He's like, because, you know, kind of gives you more of like a nerdy vibe. And he goes, that would be more beneficial to you when you go into these things. And he's like, don't wear your football stuff either. He's like, and no, I mean, the guy, he goes, a lot of the black athletes will dress all in like, you know, Cal football gear, the whole deal. And they'll sit up there. And like the black athlete who's going to make it out is very successful for people. Like people like that. The white athlete, obviously, you know, goes through the whole thing. He's like, so, you know, don't wear your football stuff, wear your glasses. And he goes, and you'll be fine. And I just remember thinking like, he was 100% like, you know, the type of dude that's like, hey, I know what right and wrong is. Now I'm going to tell you how to fucking beat the system. Yeah. So like you're not going to be able to change this shit, but if you understand how to navigate it,
you got to play the game.
Yeah, you got to play the game. And that was what his big thing is. You know, people want to like jump the shark. They want to go against the grain in this. And he's like, you know what? Things work better here if you understand the game and you know how to play it and how to manipulate it.
You got to play it better than they do.
That's how you get to a position where you can make a change.
Yeah, and I guess I would run into issue when presenting an argument or trying to appeal to people's emotions, and then get just freaking just caught or on the merry-go-round in a conversation, which then escalates into an argument, and then it's just nobody wins here.
Well,
sounds like you're dating the wrong type of women.
Oh, well, that's why I left DC.
Yeah. So I value that kind of perspective because there's a recognition of the status quo, right? That this is the status quo. This is how fucked up it is. And if you're going to want to have any success, this is what you're going to have to do. You have to play the game better than that other person. You have to strategize. You have to create your arguments. You have to be able to outmaneuver your opponent, which is, on any battlefield, that's the key. The winner is going to be the one that outmaneuvers. So I can appreciate that. But what pisses me off is that is the status quo.
That it has to be like
exactly. That's what pisses me off. And it's not just on your campus. It's campuses all across the country. I'm concerned for my kids going to these campuses and having an education in that sense that could, I want to think that my kids, when they get to that level, will be able to, kind of, again, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. They'll be able to see that kind of shit and be able to insulate themselves from that. But I'm just pissed that they have to do that. I would like for them to go to a institution of higher learning to actually learn and not be criticized or not be judged or not have to have the constant defending of their viewpoints because it's different from somebody else's viewpoints. Can't stand that. And that's what I find so contradictory. We're all about everybody's opinions as long as everybody's opinions are my opinion. And then we're good. But if your opinion's not my opinion, I don't care for your opinion, and therefore you are evil and must be destroyed. That's shit like that pisses me off.
Well, you think about what a liberal place. And you would think it'd be probably a little more conservative just because of the money in D.C. But so liberal. It's like growing up in Northern California, San Francisco area.
Oh God, it's terrible.
I also lived in Orange County, which is known as the Orange Curtain, which is conservative, and now we're out here in Austin, which is pretty interesting because even though we live in Austin, where we're out here doesn't necessarily feel
this
like
is
Austin.
Orange County, Texas.
This is the Orange. It's true. I moved to the Orange County of Texas, as I realized.
Yes.
But this is kind of like for people that like to be close enough, like you said, to restaurants in Austin, but are more conservative and want to live a little farther outside.
Absolutely. That's why I think the Hill Country does so well. Is it epitomizes that. I have plenty of friends that live downtown, and I tend to get along well with people. I don't have a chip on my shoulder that immediately. Like I've had such interesting interactions in my life that I'm curious about the other person, curious about their status in life, their position in life, how they got there, what they did. Because first of all, I'm like, okay, I look at you and I see you at a maybe a position of authority or a position of success. I'm like, okay, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
What did you do to get there? Because that there might be something that I can glean from that. And as somebody that's constantly wanting to evolve into a better me, maybe there's something there that I need to look at. And just because you have a different viewpoint doesn't mean that I disvalue your viewpoint. It may not be something that works for me. It may not be something that I can use, but I'm not going to, it's like this. It's like when we would sit there and do our mission planning. I remember distinctly one time when we were, and I threw out, we have these rounds. A lot of times, the mission planning is left up to the senior members of the team. And I was a junior member, and we're sitting there, and there was like an open call. Does anybody have anything different? And we were looking at how we're going to do this target. And I just kind of blurted out something that wasn't in line with what we were kind of going down, and everybody stopped and looked at me, and I thought, oh fuck. I just fucked myself, right? But what ended up happening was they were able to look at that and say, that's a different way. That's not something that we would have thought about. That actually has value. And while we didn't completely execute in that frame, we modified enough to where it was valuable. And so, everybody has value to add. It's just how you can interpret that value and whether or not it actually has full value for you, or just a little. In this case, that one, maybe affected 25, 30% of the way we did our job that day. That was it, but it was enough, and that I think is what everybody wants, is to have value, to be, to present something to the world that's valuable. Right. And I think everybody can, as long as, you're willing to look at that and say, all right, sure, that might not be my cup of tea, but I get it. I can see that. I can see where that's valuable to somebody else. And that's it. Don't have to condemn. Don't have to, of course, if it's going to be something that would restrict my freedoms, then I probably will have an issue with that. But if aside from that, I'm good. I'm pretty good. Because I mean, it's your, this is your life. You got one life to live. Sounds like a soap opera. You got one life to live, man. You got to live it at 100%, because that's it. There's no do-overs. There's no instant replay.
Yeah, there's no like, fuck, if only.
If only. Well, you can have that all day long, right? And this is the thing. I'm in a point in my life now when I say back and I'm like, God damn it, I wish I'd done that, So now what I do is I am very conscious of that. I'm like, okay, is this going to be the very best that I can do? Or is there some way that I can do this a little better? And I'm, you know what? The thing that I most appreciated about my mission commander at that point was he was willing to listen to me, even though I didn't have the experience that everybody else at the table did. He was willing to listen to me, right? That I think is what's valuable. And so, when I start looking at other people, I'm going to listen to them. Just, they may be able to give me, even if it's 1% of something that's going to make me do my job better. I'm good.
Have you heard of a term called the wisdom of crowds?
No.
Just similar to what the story you just told, where the whole room was thinking one way and you provided a different perspective.
Right.
And then there's, I guess, just the saying, beware of the wisdom of crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Where people are too,
I get a harumph out of that guy. Harumph.
Yeah, the crowd is too scared to stand up and say something.
Sure.
That could effectively affect the mission, right?
Yeah.
Where you're in a scenario where it's life or death, when we were just in like a business world,
right,
or an education.
Well, but I mean, you should have people around you. Like, that's the thing which I appreciate about Luke, especially. He'll argue with me about anything. So like we pose something up and he'll argue with me, even if he knows that I'm right. And I do the same to him. He'll present something and I argue with him, just because, even if it's a good decision, just because you have to be able to have dialogue to talk everything out, to see about every deal. I mean, if at every point it's like, oh yeah, that's a wonderful idea, I'd be like, come on, dude, like, fucking at least tell me something sucks. So then Luke does that every time, whether he agrees or not. So.
One of the best things that ever happened to me I remember when I was younger, was I was forced to argue a point that I did not believe in. I was forced. I had no choice. It's like, okay, here, this is it. You need to do this. And you can't do a shitty job. You have to do a good job. And I'll tell you what, man, that was a life change. That was a game changer for me, because it eliminated emotion. Like, I had to step out of that emotional void. I had to be emotionless in that sense. And I just had to look at it. And whether I believed in it or not, I had to be able to present a good argument that was, that would hold water. That would be able, I couldn't just do a bullshit job. Like, I don't fucking believe in this shit, so I'm not going to do a good job. I had to buy into it. And while I didn't believe in it, I presented a good argument. And what it did for me was it expanded my knowledge base of the subject that I was talking about in a huge way. Something that I would not have had happen if I wasn't put in that position. So sometimes I think, like, we hear the saying, you can't really judge somebody until you walk in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that was, for me, the game changer. Like, I take a step back and I really try to, if it's something I do try to put myself in that other person's position, and I try to understand their position as if I was, walking in their shoes. And I'm not perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination, but it has at least been something that has helped me out, particularly at this stage of my life, where now, it's important that I value other people's opinions and that I try to, guide them in their direction that they're trying to go.
I guess one important thing for the development in me as a strength and conditioning coach was learning from John, in that I had to go to college strength and conditioning weight rooms, and then they would shit on CrossFit.
Oh yeah.
And I would take there and I would say, all right, let's have some fun here. I would take the side of CrossFit, and then we would argue back and forth, and then essentially show them a closed off mind versus an open perception. But then I would have to go to teach these CrossFit courses, events, and seminars, and talk to people with one perspective on fitness and S&C, which was CrossFit,
Yep.
and then argue the other side.
Yep.
So learning to stand up or defend both sides, picking holes, right or wrong, and just to start to test the other people, not necessarily the idea, but then like show them you can't think like that. If you want to have success in this business, I don't care what side of the ball you're on.
Exactly.
You got to understand both.
I couldn't agree with that more, man. I mean, and it's an old war strategy. Know thy enemy, right? You have to know thy enemy, and that is going to give you insight into how you're going to evolve within that frame, and so it was one of those things where, man, I look back at that and I can't even remember what the hell I was tasked to argue. It was probably something ridiculously stupid, but I had to learn about it. I had to understand it, and then I had to present a good argument for why you should do that. And then I had to go against somebody who, on the flip side, did the exact opposite. They were defending a viewpoint that they didn't have, and they had to learn about it. And it was interesting. I mean, it felt like we were, you put those big those sumo wrestle suits on, those big puffy suits, and you just kind of like tried it. That's what it felt like. We really weren't doing much, but it was still.
But it forced you to take emotion
Exactly.
out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in the end, did we change anybody's opinion? I don't know. But I didn't even look at it as an exercise in helping other people. I looked at it as an exercise in helping me. Fuck. That was pretty heavy.
It's deep.
That was deep.
It's heavy, Doc.
Damn.
What else, John? What else do you want to challenge Jeff?
Oh, nothing. Lunch.
Down with some lunch. Yes, my hunger is telling me this time to feed.
All right, Jeff. Well, since you're off all social media except for the dating app of Instagram, how can our fans reach you?
I think that's a good
Well, don't
point.
they just got to slide you DMs?
How can our fans DM you?
They can write it on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, attach a stamp to it, mail it. Do you guys do that?
Yeah.
I've started writing letters again.
What's a stamp?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
What do you write them to yourself? Or you send them to Santa?
Don't mess with Santa.
You're like Santa.
No, it's
Santa
those-
Claus.
it's
North Pole.
Those angry letters to all his liberal community. You're not supposed to send those, right?
Those are my outside thoughts. But no, honestly, I've taken great pleasure in writing handwritten notes these days. It's kind of nice to see that. Okay,
Well, we will expect one.
oh yeah, you will get one. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna send you.
So
one
if
for
I get a
fucking sure.
handwritten letter from my dad, it's I call it the poison pen, where he will write me things he's upset about me,
Yeah.
or things I've done. He'll physically write and mail me a letter, and if I see my dad's handwriting on a letter, I'll be like, oh boy, and I read it. I'm like, and then I'll be like, call him, like, why can we talk about this? He's like, I think much better if I can pen it out. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm
It's
gonna.
called poison pens.
Well, that's okay, John. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap you in a blanket of safety and security when I write you.
Oh,
It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be
is
warm.
it a liberal blanket?
It's gonna be warm. It'll be a red, white, and fucking blue blanket of freedom, bitches. Okay, so
with barbecue stains.
damn straight, man. Well, so to get in touch with me, best thing is you can go to therange@austin.com. That's an easy way. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. Yes, you can follow me on Instagram. I always tell people that I engage in social media because it's a business, and I have to.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, I have to do that. But I actually, I have to say too, I've enjoyed engaging. It has allowed me to reach a broader audience, so I have to give it props for that. And it has allowed me to reconnect with a lot of former teammates. Actually, it's surprising. I actually found Facebook got me connected with guys that I hadn't talked to in 15, 20 years. So I can't really diss it that bad, but I'm good with that. So yeah, therangeaustin.com, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We do a lot of stuff on Instagram these days. I just kind of visit Facebook and Twitter infrequently these days. And that's about it. They can always get in touch with me by contacting the John Wellborn fan club. Just ask specifically
For the president?
Yeah.
Well, Jeff Gonzales is actually the president, treasurer, secretary. He actually hold all of his all the meetings in a phone booth, which even makes it more convenient. We can have them anywhere.
Phone booth.
I thought it was a what do you call those? Porta potty with a bunch of pictures of you.
Oh,
That's actually what I have for you, Tex.
Like Billy. I'm just envisioning Billy Madison's got one.
Oh,
Do you know
Jesus.
what I'm talking about?
Yes,
All right.
I do.
That is Jeff Gonzales. Thank you very much. therange@austin.com.
Well, it's therangeaustin.com.
Yeah, the Range Austin.
We'll have to have you back on after I get my my one-on-one coaching.
I would love that. In fact, we need to make that happen. I know you guys are busier than a one-legged man,
Well,
but
was it
Tuesday?
Yes, Tuesday. Yeah. Oh, we had that deal.
Yeah.
But you tell me.
We will make that happen. I'm committed to that big time. I've told John that several times. In fact, I keep giving him shit, dude.
I thought we were shooting today.
Dude.
And
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. It's always a pleasure. I really enjoy it.
thanks, dude.
My pleasure.
Later.
Now it's time for you to empower your performance. You can find Jeff Gonzales on his website, therangeaustin.com, or by DMing him on Instagram at Trident Concepts. Okay, he clearly stated that he doesn't respond to DMs, but he did hint at being an excellent pen pal. So if you're a grown man, and you know he's a grown man, and you want to exchange a couple of letters, I don't see anything wrong with that. Just a couple of bros writing each other through the US mail. Until next time, bye!